Today we're visiting Edwards Orchard West, and they grow a lot of different crops here at the orchard, but one of the things that they also grow is pumpkins. And we're here in the middle of July, but by the time you students watch this, probably in October, it's going to be pumpkin season. We're visiting with Kristen Edwards, and we're going to learn a little bit about how these pumpkins are raised here at this farm. So, Kristen, we're standing in a really big patch of pumpkin plants. Can you tell us about when these plants were, when these seeds were planted?
They were planted right around Memorial Day, so the Memorial Day holiday at the beginning of the summer is ideally when you want to plant them.
Okay, so this is only maybe about 6 weeks later. It looks like they've grown quite a bit. So I also noticed that the plants have a lot of big yellow flowers on them. Can you tell us about what's going on there?
So just like apples have a blossom on them, pumpkins also get a blossom on them that need to be pollinated by bees or other insects so then they can grow their fruit, which is a pumpkin.
Oh, interesting. So about how long will it be before we start to see the pumpkins grow on these plants?
Give it a couple more weeks and we'll see little tiny pumpkins starting to form where that blossom was.
And what color are those?
They're green.
Ah, yes. Now, when the pumpkins are growing, do they require a lot of water? Otherwise, is that how we get the really big ones, or does that depend on the type of seeds that you planted?
It depends on the types of seeds, but yes, they do need some water, so we just rely on Mother Nature to give us that water. But pumpkin plants also have a really good root system, so they're really good at soaking up the moisture in the dirt.
So it sounds like they need some pretty regular rains.
Yes, they do.
Absolutely. And approximately when will they start turning orange?
Normally in September they start turning orange, slowly.
So they're ready for all the fall festivals.
Yep.
Awesome. And at your farm, do you pick all the pumpkins, or can people come out and pick them themselves?
Yep, you can do it both ways. You can purchase one in the store. You can come out right here to this patch and pick up your own.
Awesome. Well, we may stop back later this year and see if we can catch a little video of the orange pumpkins or some people picking. That would be fun.
Yeah.
So we came back to Edwards Orchard West for another look at the pumpkins and to see what happened over the summer. And we're here again with Kristen Edwards. And boy, Kristen, it looks like the pumpkins have grown a lot. When we were here last time, there was just plants. There were just maybe a few flowers starting. And here we are a couple months later, and we've got great big orange pumpkins. How awesome is that? The fall is almost upon us, and so tell us a little bit about what happened over the summer and some of the things you had to do to make sure these pumpkins were growing well.
The summer growing was great. We had quite a bit of rain sporadically, and then we weeded quite a bit to make sure the pumpkin plants got most of that rain and not the weeds. And then we just made sure that they were growing good, and just recently we haven't had a lot of rain, but that doesn't seem to affect them too much, but hopefully some rain here soon.
Right. One thing I'd like to note for our students is the plants themselves are looking a little bit tired, but it's getting to the end of the life cycle of the plant, and that's one of the ways that the pumpkins actually change from the green to the orange. You can see behind me that the pumpkins are more exposed to the sun than they are during the summer growing season, because the leaves are starting to kind of dry up. And at some farms, they actually go around and turn the pumpkins over, because when the side that the sun doesn't hit sometimes stays a little bit green. Kristen, you said that you guys don't have to do that out here, because that's a lot of work, right?
Yes, it is.
That would be a lot of work. But for those farmers that sell a lot of pumpkins, they want to have that perfectly round, perfectly orange pumpkin, they have to actually turn them over. Now, the pumpkins that you guys grow, are these the kind that we're going to eat, or are these the kind that are good for carving and decorations?
We have a little bit of each. So these right here are great for carving and decorations, and then we do sell and grow the pie pumpkins too that you'll actually eat in your pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving.
Oh, awesome, awesome. I know Illinois is #1 in growing pumpkins. We grow more pumpkins than any place else in the world. The epicenter of the pumpkin growing is not up here in northern Illinois, but it's down by Morton, Illinois. But we have just the perfect soil here in our state for growing pumpkins, and it's one of our claims to fame.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Kristen. We've learned so much about your pumpkin farm today and all of your other crops that you're growing here. We really appreciate your time and hope that kids will have a lot of fun this fall with their pumpkins.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So we've been out to the farm and we've seen how pumpkins grow. We've watched them mature over the summer and it's time to harvest. So let's take a look at the different parts of a pumpkin. Maybe this fall you'll be out visiting a pumpkin patch and selecting a pumpkin or even picking one up at the grocery store. It'd be a lot of fun if you could share with your family that you learned about the parts of a pumpkin. So let's start up at the top. This is the stem. It's the part that's connected to the vine. Now, there's a couple little things I left on top here for us to investigate. These are the tendrils. The tendrils are what help a vine climb up things. You might have seen vines growing on the sides of buildings or up on a fence or a wall. The tendrils also help secure the vine to the ground. And I learned when we were out at Edwards that sometimes these tendrils will actually work their way down into the ground for an extra source of water for the pumpkins. Now, if you take a look at a pumpkin, you also see these lines. They're kind of fun to trace or color if we're going to decorate, but they actually serve a purpose. They're called the ribs of the pumpkin. And every rib contains a row of seeds inside the pumpkin. So the more ribs that you see on the pumpkin, the more seeds that will be inside. Now, I cut this pumpkin open a few minutes ago, so let's take a peek inside. So the hard outside of the pumpkin has a special name. You might think it might be a shell, but it's actually called the rind. And this part right here is the part we actually eat. It also has a name. It's called the flesh. But then there's the fun ooey gooey part in the inside. If you're gonna carve a pumpkin this fall, you might stick your hands in there and you might just call it goo or yuck. But it has a special name. It's the spot where all the seeds are held, and this part is called the pulp. Let's take a second. I'm gonna scoop a little of that pulp out, and we can see that it's all connected to those ribs because that's where the pumpkin is developing. And touch some of it. It's very wet. I'll prove it to you. Ooh, it's very, very wet. And the reason for that is that pumpkins are about 90% water. That's why they need to drink a lot of water to develop, and they hold a lot of that water inside. Now, a fun thing to do at home is to scoop out the pulp and separate out the seeds. Then take an estimate. Make a really good guess about how many seeds are going to be inside your pumpkin. And I'm going to let you in on a clue. You need to count pretty high because whether it's a little pumpkin or a big, big pumpkin, you're going to be surprised about how many seeds are in there. Most pumpkins hold between 300 and 500 seeds. That's a lot of seeds. Now, for the farmers, they don't need to keep all these seeds to plant next year because we'd have way too many pumpkins. So, can you think of something we can do with those seeds? I can. A lot of us like to roast the seeds, bake them with some salt in the oven, and get them all dry and crunchy, and they are also a delicious treat. I hope you've enjoyed learning a lot about pumpkins today. And this fall, when you go out to pick a pumpkin, think about all the things that the farmers had to do to grow that pumpkin for you. See you next time.